Well, Bradley, the Democratic Party finally got what they wanted after 8 years. A New York City Democrat-packed jury finally found Trump guilty of stealing the 2016 election. But will their answered prayers become their worst nightmares? So on May 30th, the jury found Donald Trump guilty of falsifying business records in a scheme to interfere in the election, in this case, the 2016 election. The big question that we're all dealing with and everybody's asking, did Trump get a fair trial?
Did he? I'm not sure, actually. Oh, maybe the question is, who's complaining about what a fair trial is? I remember Chuck Schumer complaining that Roe v. Wade did not get a fair trial hearing in the Supreme Court.
The Republican-appointed justices' reported votes to overturn Roe v. Wade will go down as an abomination. One of the worst, most damaging decisions in modern history. Several of these conservative justices, who are in no way accountable to the American people, have lied to the U.S. Senate, ripped up the Constitution, and defiled both precedent and the Supreme Court's reputation.
Or you had, I think, Biden mocked the Supreme Court ruling that considered his student loan payouts to be unconstitutional and said, I'm going to do it anyways. So after all that, what does Biden do? He comes out today and he gives a speech and he ridicules Trump for not accepting the decision of a court.
And it's reckless, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible for anyone to say this was rigged just because they don't like the verdict. Our justice system has endured for nearly 250 years, and it literally is the cornerstone of America, our justice system. The justice system should be respected, and we should never allow anyone to tear it down.
All right, so let's face it, the hypocrisy is off the charts with the Democratic Party. Just look at the classified documents case where the judge in that case was appointed by Donald Trump when he was president. The Democrats have been excoriating her and arguing that she should recuse herself and take her off because she's rigging it for Donald Trump. So give me a break. Look, was this a fair trial for Donald Trump? If you hated Trump, then you already decided he was guilty before the trial started. If you supported Trump, then you already believed this trial was rigged against him before the trial started. So in a sense, all this verdict does is just confirm what everybody already believed.
Let's do this. Instead of maybe questions and then we answer them for you, let's just pose some questions for you guys to consider and think through, was this a fair trial?
So the first question we should ask ourselves goes to the centerpiece of the charge of the falsification of business records. So the most important question you should start with is, what exactly should the Trump organization have classified payments to a lawyer as?
Oh, that's a good one. All right.
Right?
Okay. Well, here's another question. How do you explain the fact that Biden's third highest ranking official in the DOJ left his premier job to lead the prosecution of Trump in New York State?
Let's put up the video of Alvin Bragg, bragging about getting the verdict. That guy you see over his left shoulder, that is Biden's number 3 at the Department of Justice.
Huh. I guess Colin Jello must be Bragg's little bulldog.
Another question to ask yourself if you really want to figure out if this is a fair trial or not is, do you really believe that Judge Merchan was randomly selected to oversee Steve Bannon's trial, the CFO of the Trump Organization's trial, as well as Donald Trump's trial?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So maybe one more thing. Does it bother you that Bragg resurrected a 7-year-old zombie paperwork filing case and rigged it to an unknown felony conviction?
Unknown being the key word there, because in the verdict, they have not told us what that felony was that the jury agreed to. And
Yeah.
that's a whole nother argument we could talk about. We're going to see that run out in the appellate case, right?
Yeah.
Because they really have not told us what that felony is or how the jury came to a unanimous decision.
Here I am getting into deep waters again. I was going to say it could be a reversible error in an appellate case because the defendant has a right to know not only what he was charged with, but what he was convicted of. In this case, we don't know what felony Trump was convicted of.
And one of the reasons we don't know is because Judge Merchan, rather than throwing the case out, because Bragg and Colangelo never included what Trump was going to be charged with in terms of the felonies that they would rig to the falsification of business records in the charging document, or the bill of particulars is what they call it. Sure. It hasn't been in there. For the whole trial, we don't know what those felonies are. So people often they mock Trump and Republicans and others when they say, well, we don't even know what the crime is. Well, that's actually true. We have not known what the crime was until Judge Merchan gave the jury instructions and told them, hey, you could tie it to tax fraud, or you could tie it to a campaign finance violation, or get this, ladies and gentlemen, you could tie it to the falsification of business records. So you could tie a falsification of business records misdemeanor to a falsification of business records felony? Yeah, you can't explain that.
No.
Our judicial system, one of the key components of a jury trial is a unanimous decision. And I've already posted this on Facebook and posted in other places. There are actually more than 2 Supreme Court rulings that say specifically that you cannot have a charge and have the jurors split on 1 or 2 or other secondary charges. In this case, we don't even know whether they split or what they didn't split. We don't even know what the jurors found him guilty of that elevated the falsification of business records to a felony conviction. So up to this point, we've been presenting questions to you to think through on your own, to go and research on your own. But here's our conclusion. Judge Merchan controlled this trial. He knew what he wanted, and he knew how to get there. And basically what he did with a 53-page jury instruction is he provided a roadmap to this jury to find Trump guilty and to label him as a convicted felon.
So what's next? I think on July 11th, Merchan's going to hold his sentencing hearing. And then just a few days later, the Republican National Convention will be held to nominate Trump as their presidential nominee.
So to come back to our original question, did Donald Trump receive a fair trial? Well, the reality is the appellate process is going to roll out past November 5th. So the ultimate verdict is going to come from the American people on November 5th. I'm Brian.
I'm Bradley.
That's today's Cosmic Reckoning. And remember, think right to live free.